It's time for our discussion segment, and today we'll be looking at, the issue that has been lingering for 7 months now, and by that I mean the delay in the implementation of the local government autonomy, despite a landmark Supreme Court verdict. Now, on July 11th, 2024, the Supreme Court ruled that local government allocations must be paid directly to them, granting them full autonomy and direct funding to all 774 local government councils in Nigeria. However, the implementation of this ruling has faced numerous hurdles, with many questioning the commitment of the federal and state government to enforcing the court's decision. So today joining us, we have a political research analyst with the Center of Democracy and Development Nigeria. We have Dengiyefa Angalapu, who will help us unravel the complexity surrounding the delay in implementation of local government autonomy, and we'll also be looking at the implications of this, the role of the federal and state government, and the way forward. Thank you so much for joining us. It's good to have you.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
All right. What's your thoughts on all that is playing out with the local government autonomy? First of all, I'll start with, what were your expectations when the Supreme Court came out to say, grant them all the autonomy, give them all the finances they need? Did you see that happening fully, or are you expecting what is happening now?
Yeah, first off, I will begin by saying that the local government system that we have, and all over the world, is a very important, structure for development. So in any federal structure, there is nowhere in the world where development comes without, an effective local government system. So of course, if you look at that, if you write on that example, you realize that the Supreme Court judgment, came as a joyous moment for many people that have been looking at local government administration for quite some time. So for them and for everyone that has been observing, it was almost as though victory, it is victory at last. But for someone who has observed the local government system in Nigeria and observed the Nigerian political system, I was quite skeptical about the Supreme Court judgment, because beyond financial autonomy, there are several controversies and intricacies when it comes to local government administration in Nigeria. Okay, now let's dive into some of these issues. One is the issue of political independence. When it comes to political independence, you are simply talking about, first, the recruitment process of the local government chairman. You know that in a local government election, it is basically conducted by the state electoral, independent electoral commissions. And if you go to all of the states and all of the elections that have been conducted after the Supreme Court judgment, one thing is paramount. If there is a PDP governor in that particular state, the PDP wins all the state, or almost all of the seats in the local government. If it's an APC governor, in all the local government chairmen, and all the seats are actually won by the APC. If it's ABGA, the same thing. What does that tell you, really, is the fact that the same complaints that we have about INEC in the federal structure, it's also, in fact, we have worse complaints when it comes to the state independent electoral commissions. So the recruitment process is still quite political. It is still captured by state machineries. So look at all of the look at all of the coordinators or chairmen of those of sex in the state. You realize that some of them are former political party stalwarts, chairmen, or card-carrying members of political parties that have been appointed. So it's simply go and deliver. The mandate is simply go and ensure that you deliver, for the ruling party. So if you put that side by side with financial autonomy, you will come to conclude really that financial autonomy will not lead to a real autonomy for the local government without political autonomy. And I think that is what is missing in the local government system.
So what were you expecting when the Supreme Court came out to grant them full autonomy? No doubt everybody were joyous, and you say you had skepticism. What were you expecting they should have done, furthermore, rather than just implementing and bringing out the ruling? What were your expectations moving on?
I think simply it is to look at the structure of the political system that we have and understand how the local government system works in Nigeria. and then work towards that. It would mean that we would have looked for a way to work towards the political autonomy of local government. That would mean reforming SEC. I mean, and to be fair, there were conversations about whether or not INEC should be the one to conduct local government elections at this particular time. Of course, there were also counter arguments that in a federal system like Nigeria, that INEC coming to conduct local government at a time when we are saying the federal structure, it's very imbalanced and the central is controlling a lot more than the state's government, right? That it is not right. So they were back and forth on those arguments. But I really think that first, we need to reform the state independent electoral commissions. Now, I said something at the beginning that local government across the world, is fashioned for grassroots development. But in Nigeria, it is a bit different. Local government are simply machineries for political mobilization. And that is what is actually happening in Osun State. Right? The APC wants to ensure that it controls the local government chairman somehow, right? Because that also leaves the governor of the state a bit structureless, right? And the governor is also thinking about 2026 when his tenure will expire, right? So he's thinking of who do I put in place that will act as grassroots mobilizers. So we see local government chairmen as grassroots mobilizers, not necessarily as development, inclined government. So you hardly see any real development. So they are simply agents of the governors or agents of the government in power. That is how we see it. So we need to separate that system. Now, another thing about local government autonomy really is that sometimes when you give autonomy to local government chairmen, it is this local government chairman that will run to the governor to say, don't mind the federal government, don't mind what they are doing. We are with you, sir. You know why? Because after they become chairman, they expect that in their political trajectory, the next time they want to be commissioners, the next time they want to get to the House of Assembly, and the old client-patron relationship, what we call godfatherism in Nigeria. If you're a stubborn local government chairman that says, oh, we now have autonomy, the idea is that you have 3 years, right? And I have 4 years. So after your 3 years, after you leave, right, you will simply be sent to some kind of political exile.
So you're saying that the supposed autonomy being given by the Supreme Court, in your thoughts and in your experience and in what you've observed so far, do you see it kicking off fully in Nigeria?
It will be difficult unless it is reformed. There will be some controversies, and I see, some thesis and antithesis that can lead to some positives. One is the fact that now you've installed local government chairman. This thing came last year, right? The decision came last year, and then everybody is struggling to conduct local government elections because the federal government says if it's not a democratically elected local government, we are not sending funds, right? So people are struggling to conduct. Now, what will happen is that the tenures of some governors will expire while the local government chairman will still be on board. So imagine a situation where the governor's tenure expires and the local government chairman are in PDP now, and then the APC governor now comes on board. That is when you see some of the controversies. So you now see that struggle for power that ultimately is actually good for Nigerians, really. Because really, there is a lot of political consensus and agreement that goes elite consensus that goes on in the Nigerian government that does not push the development of the grassroots. So when you see all of those contestations, the local government chairman will begin to say, okay, fine, we now have a governor in power that is not from our party, so our people needs to be with us. That means they have to work for the people to get the support of the people. And you now see contestation between the governors and the local government chairman. So it is actually very good that it came at the middle of the tenures of many governors. And I think if you watch the Osun State very well, that is what the governor is actually basically afraid of, really, because he wants to control that structure. So that fight, really, that elite fight, especially, unfortunately, sometimes this thing gets a bit, very bloody, and then people die, and the mass recruitment comes from basically from the grassroots, and we basically defend these people. But if we allow it to be an elite fight, to say, well, settle your elite struggle and ensure that what we want is the development of the people. Ultimately, it is actually good for us. But for me, I really think that financial autonomy can only lead to wholesome autonomy, really, when we have a political autonomy of the local governments.
Talking about the political autonomy of the local government, I'll get to that shortly. But you made mention of something that did catch my attention in the beginning, where you said, and which is something that is public knowledge, that the local government is meant for grassroots development. But it's unfortunate it is now being used for political permutation and manipulation and mobilization. How did we get here? Would you say, how did we get to this point where, we don't even have the kind of local government chairmen that are even enlightened enough to an extent, I dare say, that are even enlightened enough to know what to do for their people per time? If we have a change in local government chairman, the type that would know that it's beyond the party I belong to, I am here to work, would we see a different political system in Nigeria completely?
Yes. So even the insecurity that we have in Nigeria across board, different parts, the northeast, terrorism, northwest, banditry, the secessionist agitations in the southeast, oil theft and all of that. These things happen in localities, and local people are best suited to respond to all of this. It is because of the ineffectiveness of the local government system that security has become a very, very big deal. And if you look at Zamfara, look at Katsina and all of that, you look at Borno and all of that, you will see that there are islands of peace. There are local governments where, despite the banditry and terrorism that you see across, right, there are local governments where it is peaceful. If you investigate why those local governments are peaceful, it's simply where you have strong local government leaders or strong traditional leaders. So it means that the local government structures are, if we build it, make it fit for purpose, it is going to drive development. But how did we get here? It is simply a situation for state capture, where we think that, a state governor or the federal government thinks it wants to capture, the different localities for political gains. Let's not forget in the Obasanjo tenure, where the local government funds for Lagos were actually withheld. Let's not forget situations where House of Assemblies will basically, decide that they want to impeach local government chairmen, someone that you did not elect. We have the councillors there, but House of Assembly, that is the controversy in Edo State, right? And all of that. So you see a system where people want to capture different localities for political gains. So basically, if you look at Rivers State, you will simply see the owners of Rivers State in quote. You look at Bayelsa, look at Edo State, look at Zamfara, you see the owners of those states. So whatever you want to do, the whole idea is that you must come through me before you do it. So they don't want to layer the structures of authorities. They don't want people that will question their authorities in any given form. And that is how we've actually gotten here. If you look at our history from pre-colonial times to the colonial period, you will see a consistent decline in local government authorities. So first off, you see local government maintaining markets, you see them, raising funds and all of that. And I think at a particular period, in the pre-colonial period, governance was simply local. When the colonial masters came, they tried to use the direct rule system, use local government systems and all of that. But they also saw that perhaps the chiefs, the kings and all of that, traditional authorities were very, very powerful. So they decided to bring in their own system, put the traditional leaders under the local government system. But also looking at the local government system, they became threatened that it is still a power struggle between the formal administrations, the bigger layers of government and the local government. So they simply still tried to remove them, remove the powers from them. And what really happened? What happened after several years was that they now saw that, these local government chairmen are actually challenging our authorities. What he now started to have was caretaker situation. So you see governors not announcing a local government election for 4 years, and what you simply have is caretaker committees. So with that kind of history, you simply kill the local government system. And what has happened is that you've built in a history in them to say this government is this powerful. Remember what it did to that other chairman that was not loyal. this same thing can actually also happen to you. So there's so much fear in the minds of people, and really I sincerely don't know where we would go from here. But what I am very sure of is that if we need to develop Nigeria, we need to salvage the local government system.
So is the local government autonomy really a solution to the development we're looking for?
Yes, it is. It is really.
But with how it is having politics play a lot in it, and the role of governors and political bodies in it, is it what we need at this point in time, or like you said, the restructuring of the political system in the local government?
So it is the beginning of what we need really. When people talk about the financial autonomy, I say it is not really a complete waste, really, but it is only the first step in a very long journey. So we've begun the process. I think that in some way we are still going to be having some very radical local government chairmen, that will say, well, this is my money, right? Pay it to me directly. I need to work for my people. I don't even need a second tenor anyway, and just want to work. And I think that's the spirit that the local government chairman should have. Should have really. So, but what I have seen so far, it's really politics. Also, it's in Nigeria, it's more like a career, right? So you want to from local government chairman become an House of Assembly member. From there, you want to become the governor and all of that. So you're also thinking in many cases, you have ambitions really. So you're also still thinking, if I am a stubborn local government chairman, right, what will happen to my political trajectory? I think that is really the problem, because I think that with the Supreme Court judgment, if a local government chairman says, I don't care about what you will do, really. I just want to work for my people for 3 years and do something that I don't want. In fact, the whole of Nigeria might not celebrate me, but let the few communities I have ruled over celebrate me, and this is what I want them to know me for. And it does it. I think it should be able to do it.
The day we would have that kind of leader or local government chairman who has seen that money touch his accounts. I had a guest one time who said, a local government chairman with one show and one house, and that money hits his account, he will first of all think of how to upgrade his life and look the part. But the day we have that kind of leader is a long way to go. But now let's talk about our political climate. How can we really eradicate politics from that local government level and because grassroots politics, grassroots development is essential. When it starts from, like you said, insecurity, so many things can be built and fought from the grassroots. So how can we reduce, with how you understand Nigeria's political space, with how Nigeria's political space is it possible to take out politicking from this local government, governance that we have?
Yes, it actually begins from the communities. It begins from all of the community associations, the CDCs, the traditional rulers and all of that. I think it begins from communities asking for a functional local government system, asking for what should be done and done rightly, right? So if it comes from the communities, I think that we can actually go there. There is nowhere in the world where the leaders are stronger than the masses. The only reason why that becomes possible is the disunity, is the fractured nature of the masses. So if all of us say this is what we want, really, that is what will definitely happen, and that is how revolution occurs. But we are so disunited. We are also speaking. In fact, as we are talking about local government now, and then how autonomy should be handed to local government, don't be surprised that there are also lots of community people that are saying, please don't mind them, right? This is what I think should happen. So, and the level of poverty also has not helped in that regard. Now, let me tell you one thing. One reason why communities should come together and demand for a functional local government. It is the single reason why insecurity might possibly stop in Nigeria, and I'll simply come to that. In many local communities, people know one another, right? And local government is in charge of two very important things. One is the registration of birth and the registration of death, right? And if you want to identify criminals anywhere in the world, it is the identity system that identifies. So you know who was born in a particular place, and who has died in a particular place. So if you are simply looking for those kind of information, you go to the local government system. Now, how does that help? We have a national identity database where you just walk up to and then say, I am a Nigerian. And they say, oh, where are you from? Which local government are you from? And they register you. No, that shouldn't be it. They should simply say, oh, I'm a Nigerian. Okay, fine. Let us log into a local government database and they get your information from there if you are truly from that particular place. so that when that database is being harmonized, right, we know how many people have left Nigeria, I mean, in terms of death, and how many people are reborn. That's an important information for security and also for national development planning. Now, very importantly, you meet a policeman on the road, right? Instead of asking you, what is your name? Where are you going? He simply asks you, give me your thumbprint. He puts your thumbprint on a device. He sees your local government. He sees where you've stayed over the period of 10 years. He does not need to ask you. But if you go to the police station now, and someone is suspected to be a criminal, you are simply entrusting that criminal to be truthful by writing a statement to say, where are you from? Where have you lived? Where are you coming from? Those are basic information that should be in our database. And where does the database begin from? Right from birth, when the local government, duty of the local government.
I really wish this interview could continue because it's actually been quite eye-opening. Well, I would say this before we go. Database has been a huge problem in Nigeria, because tell me how one person has an NI, a BVN, a voter's card, a driver's license, and all, there should be a database that should compute all of that, and that is a conversation for another day. But finally now, quickly, we have like 2 minutes before we go. On building public trust, what can we finally do real quick to ensure that we have communities who are willing to request for the kind of local government chairman they need? And that starts from public trust. What can be done to build that public trust? Real quick before we go.
Yeah, so simply conversations. Communities should have dialogue systems and converse amongst themselves. They even have community development plans and think of what the government needs to do for them, right? So when the government approaches them, they say, oh no, I know you have a plan, but this is our community plan, and I think you need to run with this. And I think with that now, the government will also know that the communities and community agencies really have some agency in regards to what they want for themselves. So I think that conversations, more dialogue, more enlightenment is needed for public trust.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dengiyefa Angalapu. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a very, very interesting conversation this morning. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, to our listeners out there, I hope you've been able to pick something from our conversation. The last time we spoke about local government autonomy, every caller who called in said they were ready to hold their local government chairman accountable when the monies were being given to them. But we're seeing what is playing out and how it is playing out. And you've heard it from his mouth. It is up to you as a Nigerian and as a citizen to know that you really do have the power and the right. If your vote is not important, they will not buy it from you. If your presence and your votes are not important, these leaders would not come to you and vie for things that they want. The community belongs to you. You have the right to pick your leaders. So please, let's hold conversations and decide on the kind of leaders we need in Nigeria.